A sudden diplomatic breakthrough has paused one of the most dangerous escalations in the Middle East. The United States and Iran have agreed to a 2-week ceasefire, temporarily stepping back from further military action after weeks of rising tension and direct confrontation. But this pause is fragile, and what happens next could reshape regional stability, global oil markets, and nuclear negotiations for years. Here is what the ceasefire actually means. First, the announcement itself. President Donald Trump confirmed he would suspend military strikes against Iran for 2 weeks. However, the suspension comes with a condition. Iran must ensure safe passage through the strategic Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical energy shipping corridors. Roughly 1/5 of global oil exports pass through this narrow waterway, making it the single most important leverage point in the conflict. This agreement did not emerge suddenly. It was brokered through mediation by Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, who invited both delegations to continue negotiations in Islamabad on April 10th. The goal is simple but difficult: transform a temporary pause into a lasting agreement. Now, Iran's response tells a different story. Iranian state media framed the ceasefire not as a compromise, but as a national victory. Officials pointed to Washington's willingness to discuss Tehran's proposed 10-point framework as proof their strategy worked. Among Iran's key demands are permanent cessation of hostilities, sanctions relief, compensation for wartime damage, and continued influence over shipping security inside the Strait of Hormuz. However, one issue remains especially contentious. Iran insists it must retain the right to enrich uranium. Washington strongly disputes that position. This disagreement alone could determine whether negotiations succeed or collapse. Meanwhile, events on the ground show how fragile the ceasefire still is. Shortly after the announcement, Israeli authorities reported incoming Iranian missile activity. U.S. officials warned that even after agreements are reached at the political level, military units sometimes take time to receive stand-down orders. That means isolated attacks may continue temporarily, even during the ceasefire.
There will be a ceasefire, total ceasefire, regarding all of the fighting between Israel and Iran's proxies. The U.S. should leave all bases in the region, and compensation should be paid to Iran. And of course, the Iranian media are also adding the
Ceasefire window. From a military perspective, analysts say Iran absorbed significant losses during the confrontation. Reports suggest portions of its naval capacity, air force readiness, and ballistic missile infrastructure were degraded during recent operations. But despite these setbacks, Iran still retains one powerful strategic advantage: the ability to disrupt shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. That leverage keeps Tehran central to any negotiation outcome. Inside Iran itself, public reaction has been cautious. In recent weeks, many civilians had begun storing food, candles, and emergency supplies, expecting possible attacks on infrastructure such as power stations and bridges. The ceasefire announcement eased immediate fears of escalation. However, expectations that the conflict might trigger major internal political change have not materialized. For now, the government remains in control, weakened, but stable. And that leads to the most important question: what happens next in Islamabad? Diplomats from both countries are expected to meet there within days. These talks will attempt to resolve two major disputes: nuclear enrichment rights and long-term control arrangements affecting the Strait of Hormuz. Analysts describe the negotiations as extremely difficult. Both sides claim strategic success. Both sides have red lines they refuse to cross. And both sides understand the ceasefire lasts only 2 weeks. If talks succeed, this could become the first step toward a broader regional settlement. If they fail, the pause may simply delay the next phase of confrontation. For now, the ceasefire is real, but temporary. The outcome will likely be decided in Islamabad.